Greetings world, how are you all doing today? It's your man Putu and we're live here again on a special Liberty Shine TV exclusive. As you know, we're all about showing light, shining light on people who are doing great things within the community and around the world to see how best we can uplift ourselves out of the pit and the conditions we've been in as a people for so many years. And today, the same thing again. I have a special guest here who is doing great things within the nation of Liberia and abroad, and it's an honor to have him here on Liberty Shine TV. So ladies and gentlemen, his name is Mr. Isaac Vatupa. I'll allow him to introduce himself,
Thanks for having me, Putu. Thanks a lot. Yeah. I'm Isaac Va Tukpa Jr. and I'm a proud Liberian, a very proud Liberian. I'm excited to be on Liberty Shine TV with my man Putu. We've been trying to connect over some time now, and it's been fruitful this weekend. I met him earlier this past weekend, and now we are sitting together having this little interview here. But just a little background on myself. I've been here now for a while. In the States. I've been back and forth to Liberia over the last 5 years, like 4 or 5, 6 times. And it's been very interesting. I've been really struck by the level of poverty, the lack of care, the lack of accountability within the system, and just how the system is structured in terms of where the power lies, and the lack of input from the people into what happens with their resources and with themselves. So that's part of my advocacy. And then back in 2009, or actually before that, I was with I am with the Liberian Emergency and Disaster Relief Fund. Okay. It's called the Leader Fund. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. And one of the things we tried to do earlier was try to see if we could bring different nonprofits together. I know you are with a similar kind of organization trying to do things in Liberia. We got formed based on the fact that I think in 2008 there was a flooding, and a lot of Liberians were rendered homeless. So we tried to raise some funds, to help them. That's how the organization started. And since then we've been doing things here and there. We've taken books and medical supplies to Phoebe Hospital. We've done it for a clinic in West Point. We have supported a couple of different Liberian individuals who were either sick or had, were afflicted by fire and stuff like that.
Also, it was several weeks or months ago, you actually brought attention to a young lady who had an infection.
Her name was Rebecca Franklin. Unfortunately, she passed away before I got to Liberia. But it was a facial cyst that transformed into, I don't know, some people call it cancerous or whatever. And she went through a lot of misery and pain, and that's very pathetic that something that's a cyst could cause the death of a person from the lack of care. I mean, I heard she went to JFK Hospital and they told her she was witch, so they couldn't really treat her situation. And this lady was somebody who was vibrant, really with the community, progressive, productive, and she got sick, and basically there's no care because there's people we don't have that system in Liberia where we can really care for each other. So that's part of what I'm doing too, working with this guy named Dr. Zumo to push healthcare from a legislative perspective, from an advocacy perspective, and from actually doing healthcare projects as well.
We'll get a little bit into some of those that project and also things that you are engaged in, but just to clear the air, in recent times there's been some statements that were made that may have been misconstrued or however, talking about the level or the living conditions in Liberia in comparison to other places around the world. Could you just give a little bit of insight into that?
Okay, I'll start from the origin. We're on Facebook, and this one guy had posted a picture of a very beautiful dog, gray, sheen, nicely brushed down and everything. And I was kidding with him. I said, if that dog were in my community, we'll kill that dog and eat it because we're suffering. We ain't got no food, and you're playing around with a dog, right? So. He started getting concerned because he thought I was really serious about what I do. He started talking about the stuff he does for his dog and blah blah blah. So I was like, let me go on the internet and pick something up. So I searched on, dogs and dog care and standard of living for dogs and all that kind of stuff. And it was just phenomenal. The range of, what people spend for their dogs on a monthly basis, compared with what Liberians live on, less than $1 a day, 75% of the people. And 52% live on less than, 50 cents a day. So I made a statement. I said the standard of living of dogs in America is better than 75% of, Liberians, in Liberia, and that's a fact. They can't refute the statistics, but people, government stooges, and other people are saying, "Oh, dogs don't provide for themselves, etc." But dogs are protected. You cannot abuse a dog in America. You know the story of Michael Vick, right? Who did some dog fighting and how long he went to jail. Or even people who own their own dogs in the neighborhood, and you just let a stray dog go out there and they can trace it back to you, you could pay a fine,
So what you say, your underlying point was to, what did you want people to get out of that statement?
What I'm trying to get out of that is, in this country, dogs are protected. There are laws to protect dogs from regards to health care, from regards to how you treat them and food. But in our own country, our people don't have that same benefit and that same privilege. And their standard of living is extremely poor. To live less than $1 a day, while other people, are making $15,000, $20,000, and not justifying those salaries. I don't begrudge anybody the salary they make. Don't get me wrong. If you qualify, you make the money, that's fine. But that disparity in the system, there has to be something that people should suffice for. So there are a couple of people who are upset with that statement. Just today, somebody linked me to some poster about a new report that Americans, like 1.65 million households in America, are living in extreme poverty, which is for them is $2 a day, right? About $2 a day, and there's a reason for that, right? So, but unfortunately for us, that percentage of the 250 to 300 million people in America is very low compared with 75% of our people. So people keep trying to find these justifications why poverty is okay, but it's unacceptable.
Well,
totally.
I think if there's anything that people can get out of it is, despite how hurtful it may have been, we have to address the fact that something's wrong. That there are people in Liberia who are living day-to-day survival, and I think it will be hard pressed to find anybody who could dispute that there's not something that we need to do.
They're still trying to dispute it, and they're trying to impugn my reputation and character and saying there was a lady who came by. Because people on Facebook, after I made a statement, they wrote articles to Front Page Africa. I was comparing Liberian to dogs, etc. And that was not what I was doing, because I'll be comparing myself to dogs. But yeah, dogs in America, yeah, some of them that stand on living better than mine, no question. Yeah, I have a nice house, I have a nice, I have cars, everything's going fine for me. But that doesn't mean that I live better than some of the dogs in America. I know Martha Stewart dog live better than me. Obamacare lives better than me. So
there's a story about a lady who died, and she had her dog got $12 million. Nobody could take the money because it was in the dog name. $12 million. But
one other lady in Liberia was even joking. She said, "I told my dog, my dog coming around, said, man, get up from here, man. Your friend in America making money, and you don't." So it's a serious thing. I mean, I know some people perceive that dogs are the lowest form of life in Liberia, whatever. It's because we make it that way. But there are people who treat their dogs in Liberia very well.
I think at the core of this, despite him, whatever the case may be, is about dignity, and life.
Exactly.
And what can we do? So
that's my point. Solutions.
So solutions,
yeah.
Which brings us to the next stage right now. We've been talking about where Liberia has been or where it is. We all know that Liberia is recovering from the civil unrest that even extends more beyond just the war from 1989. The roots of Liberia is the ills in Liberia extend even further beyond.
Right.
What can you say about Liberians on ground, at home, working with Liberians abroad? How important is that in terms of Liberia's future?
It's extremely, extremely important. I know right now the whole dual citizenship issue is is hot. It's on the wire for a lot of people. I believe it should be approached cautiously, because we have seen some of the people who have gone back, and because of the lack of accountability in the system, they can steal, be corrupt, and there's no repercussion. That's what some people are afraid of. But there's also the factor that the diaspora has a significant number of the educated and qualified professional Liberians, and there has to be some means, some measure to integrate them into what we do back home. Like one of my friends that I taught, if the government could have like a portal, you know, where professionals here can make, you know, post their qualifications, their specialties, etc. And when government has needs, try to match these. Not there's that mentality that you have to be on the ground for anything to happen. No, we're in a global world. There's technology is advancing, and people can collaborate on documents, on projects, on anything. I'm a project manager. I know I work in a distributed environment a lot of time where people are all over the place. We're not all co-located in the same location. So for people to try to restrict that and use that as a means to maybe disenfranchise, you know, Liberians in the U.S. or in other diaspora areas, you know, I don't think it's fair.
So what it is, we're seeing that there's it's almost like it's a lack of trust or this issue on both sides of the fence, whether it's Liberians on ground or Liberians abroad, and that brings up into you know, into our mental like the idea of trust. You know, how do we trust?
There's a significant trust issue, and I think one way to battle that trust issue, for one, is a total system reform, but we can get to that.
Okay.
The first step, I think, is people who are out in the diaspora and other places who have the potential to make some kind of tangible contribution, not just remittances, because a lot of Liberians, you know, I was just, you know, on Facebook with a kid in Liberia, in Ghana, who's at the camp. I said, how do you guys survive? Because I visited the camp when I just went to Liberia. I stopped in Ghana to just, because I had never been to any of the refugee camp, just to talk to the people there and see, you know, what the situation is. And he said they live on remittances because it's so tough for them to get jobs in Ghana. And other people confirm it. So I'm saying one way for us to do that is to set tangible examples by doing stuff. Like I raised a suggestion on Facebook the other day. You know, in this group called Discussing Liberia, another group called TMZ, they have like 57,000 and 17,000 respectively.
Whole lot of people.
Yeah, there's some duplicates, but if you net, you probably get 50,000 people total, right? So if these people could just have it in the heart to contribute like a meager $10, you know, 50,000 people, that's 500,000. We can provide 15 schools across the country in the 15 counties. Something symbolic. It may not be extensive, but for those specific students, if we equip them with computers, you know, we equip them at least the first 6 months or so with fuel and generator for them to be able to operate efficiently, you know, and start to learn. Because most learning takes place from your, you know, extreme childhood to like 6th or 7th grade. After that, most of the things you ever learn will be based on what you have already learned, because it will be building blocks. You know, you have the foundation. So we have to be very particular about how we grow this, the generations that are coming after us, and that's, you know, that's where my passion lies.
Yeah, so it's an interesting point that we have there. Okay, pause.